Hi all. I had a very dry, dull game unfortunately last night, playing against Wanstead Chess Club, and also our team disastrously lost 4.5, 1.5. We had 3 draws, so this was one of them. My opponent was I.Hunnable, he's about 170, an experienced player. He plays knight f3. I was thinking, maybe I should be a bit adventurous here and play the Dutch defence. That's often my one of my first reactions when seeing knight f3. But no, I thought I'd get some more experience in the Slav. So I played d5 with the idea of a Slav setup later. After d4, I played knight f6, and after c4, so he's avoided any g3 systems without c4. I just play c6, and now he leaves his queen's bishop at home, e3. And I already, was aware this has some venom because I was playing some blitz with my good friend Fat and Mad, Kostas Karyonis, and one of the points of this e3, I think, is bishop d3, knight c3, and white's going to be quick for the e4 break. So I thought I'd play bishop g4 to try and solve this queen's bishop being potentially blocked in immediately, and I thought in this variation with the bishop at home, there's less risk of bishop f6s later, followed by queen b3s, hitting d5 and b7. So that was the logical justification that I thought it was safe to not leave my bishop at home. So bishop g4. So he plays knight d2, and this is another very solid move, which my opponent after the game said, in the days of Capablanca, he was playing this, and his opponents were often playing d takes c4, underestimating knight takes c4 and knight e5 or the pressure on d6. And for me, this is kind of annoying because one of the themes I do like in the Slav later is this mechanism, where you play d takes c4, bishop takes c4 in principle, and then you're ready to play this e5. So in this game, that mechanism is not really going to be available for freeing my game with e5. In fact, with the bishop on c1, it can actually go to b2 later and try and tie black down on the e5 square to make that liberation even more difficult with e5. So anyway, I play knight d7, and I do point my pieces now on the e5 square by playing after e6. I now play bishop d6. And I reinforce my control of e5 now with queen c7. So he's also trying to clamp down on e5 with bishop b2. So we're really fighting for this key square at the moment. After h3, I want to preserve the light square bishop, so I moved it to h5 instead of bishop takes f3. After rook c1, and here I played, maybe a slightly controversial move, a5. I just thought with the knight on d2 instead of c3, then that makes a4 a bit more tempting. The knight's not eyeing a4. So he plays a3, and now I move my queen to b8. I know that's a bit strange to move the queen to b8, blocking in the rook, but I thought, rook here to e8, I didn't really think much of that. In fact, Rybka agrees. I thought, c5 and then white playing b4 even maybe would be nice. But actually Rybka here likes bishop d3. I think white's quite comfortable here because this e5 is really being stuffed up as a liberating move. It's very difficult to play it with this bishop there, and it seems white has a very pleasant solid system here, clamping down on the dark squares. So with queen b8, I'm also introducing the idea that I might even play b5 later. In fact, after queen c2, I do play b5 right now. So gaining space on the queen side, and maybe the positional threat of a4 is emerging. But after bishop d3, I want to exchange off the light square bishops first. And I've got a kind of light square attack going now. If I can just exert more pressure on these light squares, especially c4, I'd love to get in principle a knight to c4, but that never happened. After rook b1, I did play the aggressive looking a4, but he took on b5. And now actually Rybka gives black is slightly better, so maybe taking on b5 wasn't, the best here. Maybe c5 or bishop c1. That's what Rybka's recommendation on depth 13 is. Bishop c1 to hold things together So say AB, rook takes b3. So white would be relying on this pin on the queen. So d takes c4, knight takes c4. So this would be fine, maybe. So what he played was a little bit more controversial. He allowed me, after c takes b5, I'm really potentially using the c file here and c4 in some variations. But I take on b3 immediately, and here, there's two critical options now. Do I take with the queen or do I take with the pawn? I didn't really fancy taking with the pawn because I didn't like this fixed target on b5. In fact, Rybka prefers taking with the queen, and that's why they played. But let's have a quick look at this. If I took with the pawn, rook fc1, slight advantage to white, according to Rybka. So what is black doing here? Say b4, if the queen's come off, now we've got a kind of symmetrical pawn structure, and these pawns, double pawns, are not really that great. And white's slightly better here. Say this move king f1, white's better. So basically, maybe I was right to take with the queen. Apparently that leaves me with a tiny advantage. He took, and now bishop c1. But here, maybe, this is my chance to start putting some pressure on the opponent, and I didn't do that. I thought there might be some sort of pressure just by taking on a3, with the idea that if the bishops come off, I can try and get to my opponent's 7th rank and use the c file. But the problem is my opponent's rooks are coming down to the 7th rank as well in return. So, but let's have a look. Instead of bishop takes a3, which is what I played, say I did try to put the pressure on with rook fb8. So say rook b3, rook a5. You see, the opponent's always got an important resource here. This knight b1, he came up with this in post-mortem as well. It seems passive, but say knight e4 to try and exploit, the knight leaving control of e4. The knight fd2, and it seems difficult for black to actually proceed here. Say knight df6 takes f3. Now the knight's been kicked back, and I think white is just dead equal now. Bishop d2. And there's no problems. In fact, Rybka gives this as dead equal, this position. So really, although my opponent's got this feeble pawn, I've got this problem pawn as well. In fact, white is emerging with a tiny advantage here after rook c1. Because now, white's got just as much rook pressure. So maybe that, that wasn't so great to take with a pawn. So, or sorry, to try and play with this position, even with this pawn. So what I did was just I took on a3 instead of trying to protect b5. The other possibility, though, rook a5, to try and double up rooks. It seems logical, but knight b3, and this is what I showed my opponent, knight b3 with the idea of just knight d2, because then he's attacking b5 again. So he's like forcing my rook, by repetition. Otherwise, what am I doing here? If I go here, say, then again, he attacks b5. So if I end up having to protect with that, then he's got rook b3. So I'm never going to double on this pawn. I'm never going to get enough pressure on that pawn without allowing this pawn to drop. So that's the problem. So in the game, I took on a3, and it quickly dissolved into a dead boring position, which after rook 1b2, he offered the draw, and I couldn't see anything for me, so I accepted. So that puts me on 2 out of 3 so far. 3 games in my Slav experience has increased a bit. I did look up in some games in the last Olympiad with this E3 system, and I think I'll show you some exciting GM examples in the next video. Let's have a quick look at this game again. Bit of a dull game. But I didn't have too many risks for losing the game, but on the other hand I didn't have any risks for winning the game either. So it's just this symmetrical pawn structure also is not good against a lower rated player, or if you want to win, I think unbalancing the position, unbalancing the pawn structure, often creates winning chances as well as losing chances. They go hand in hand, risk and reward. So please leave any comments on YouTube. And also, by the way, I've got a new Twitter page, so twitter.com/kingscrusher. If you've got any thoughts on videos or what you'd like to see on video in terms of chess content, please let me know on my Twitter page. So you can become a follower there and leave comments on any of my thoughts. Thanks very much.